Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for coming along to listen to a brief little introduction to the NERC Arctic Research Station at Ny-Ålesund up in Svalbard. And I know I've met lots of you, and it's lovely to have that feeling that we're sort of in contact in this um, electronic way. So just a brief introduction to this lovely part of the world, and what we like to think is a very lovely research station, which has been running since 1991 at the beginning of the international research community at Ny-Ålesund in northwest Svalbard. So just a little bit of geography to start with. Svalbard there sort of sits between 74 degrees and 81 north, and Ny-Ålesund is just short of 79 degrees north. And I'm sure a lot of you know Svalbard, but it's something like 62,000 square kilometers, so it's not very big landmass, and 60% is permanent ice cover. But I think one of the main things I want to try and get over in this little talk is the wonderful location that we have up there. It provides an environment for most of the sort of main areas of environmental science. It's easily accessible, and from most places, certainly in Europe, you can be there within a day or just over a day. It's international, which brings in all sorts of nice sort of atmosphere and a sort of way of life which is stimulating and exciting. It has total science support. It's anybody you talk to in Ny-Ålesund is either a scientist or is supporting science, and that makes for a very good energy and a good feel about the place, and of course very, very efficient. It's a wonderful place for connection and collaboration, and on top of it all, it's very convivial. It's just wonderfully friendly and a very lovely place to be. Oh, I'm not quite sure what I've done there. Having trouble just going forward. Oh, here we are. Getting there, it's something like an hour and a half's flight, just maybe over that, from Oslo up to Longyearbyen, which is the main sort of gateway center to Svalbard. And a lot of you know that the governor of Svalbard, Sysselmann, is based there. The Norwegian Polar Institute, UNIS, the university center, tourist industry, hotels, and so on. So a good landfall, if you like, when you arrive. From there, we fly or boat, but normally fly. It's roughly about 1 degree north from Longyearbyen up to Ny-Ålesund here, up in the northwest here. So that's about 111 kilometers. It's probably a little bit more than that. And the flight takes about half an hour. It's about 100 nautical miles to go by sea. And that takes in, a reasonable sized boat, sort of 400 ton or bigger, takes something 12 to 14 hours steaming to get round there. And here's the little Dornier airplane that runs 4 flights, 2 on a Monday, 2 on a Thursday, normally. Takes 14 passengers and takes about 30 minutes. With a headwind, with a following wind, we get there in about 20 minutes. It can be very, very quick. But again, very easily accessible to get up to Ny-Ålesund. And the airstrip is open year-round. We don't rely on skied aircraft. We keep or rather Kings Bay, who run the infrastructure, they keep the airstrip rather, free of deep snow. And then we're flying over Ny-Ålesund, over Kongsfjord. So you see Ny-Ålesund down here, isolated, no roads leading to it. The only ways are by air or by sea. And it sits in this really, really beautiful location. I mean, scenically, I've traveled throughout Svalbard since 1978, and Kongsfjord really, to my mind, tops the lot. It's just so very, very pretty. It sits in a fjord, Kongsfjord, which is about 30 kilometers long, and it varies from about 13 kilometers to 4 or 5 kilometers wide, so about 270 kilometers area, something like that. And then on the shoreline, there's something like 220 kilometers of shoreline. 25% of that is glacier, and something like 45 kilometers square is vegetated. So there's a lot of alluvial plain, riverbeds, and of course ice. There's 12 major glaciers intersecting the tundra or land-based terrain. And then of course there are hanging glaciers, Corrie glaciers, a rock glacier. It's got it all there. I think again another message to get over, that everything's easily accessible, whether it be by boat, which we're equipped with, or to walk from the station. It's easy walking, flat terrain, uninterrupted in the main by glacier, so you can get about really quite quickly. So just on here you can see the little airstrip. You get picked up there, driven down into Ny-Ålesund, where everything is organized for you, and then you find your bedroom, and then we introduce you to our station and make you at home. And there's always something like a day, or sometimes up to a day and a half of training, whether it be weapons training, snow scooter training, glacier training. But we try and help just so to make it more efficient and safe, whatever it is you want to do. And here we have a little view of the sort of central part of Ny-Ålesund. A little village, if you like. Over here you can see the mess building. We all eat together. That dining room has produced so many scientific papers, it's not true. It's incredible. We sit cheek by jowl and eat and talk, and all the nationalities, all the different types of science we mix and meet, and it's just extraordinary. That is such an incredible little dining room over there. This is us here in the near foreground on the left hand side, and behind me, or behind us, we have the sea. And then the peaks. This is a typical peak to one side, Zeppelinfjellet. It's about 500 meters. That's fairly typical, with something like a 30-35 degree slope on the side, and then interspersed here on glaciers on either side. So very international. There are 14 stations in Ny-Ålesund, owned by 14 nations. So it's rather 14 nations and 10 stations. Norway has more than one. So again, marvelously sort of international. There are of course lots of other nationalities that visit the various stations. We talk about the honeypot principle and the reason for having Ny-Ålesund, and one of the main reasons for it being there is actually to attract science and thereby make science efficient, but also to protect the natural environment elsewhere on Svalbard. So where possible, we try and attract people, scientists rather, to come to Ny-Ålesund to carry out their science. And it's done wonders for Svalbard. There aren't sort of too many little campsites and sort of disparate sites littered around the place. So where we can, we concentrate where we are. The infrastructure at Ny-Ålesund is run by the Kings Bay Company, who are just wonderful. It's they run everything from keeping us the power going, electric going, run the airstrip, run freight, dining room, of course, which is a very important part for us. And as I say, everybody's geared to science. So if you talk to anybody within Kings Bay and you ask a favor or something to be done in a workshop or both, whatever, they will jump to it. It's just a lovely, lovely atmosphere. Over here you can see our lovely dining room. We eat far too well, and wonderful views out of the window. Occasionally you get a polar bear go by every now and again. It's a lovely place to be. A little bit about the climate. I might have got this wrong actually, because I've been using these figures for such a long time, and it must be said, like the rest of the globe, we've got a little bit warmer and a little bit wetter over recent years. So but that gives a little idea of the precipitation and temperatures and so on. We get midnight sun from about mid-April through towards the end of August, and then the sun is down below between sort of mid-October-ish through towards the end of February. And in Ny-Ålesund, we actually see the sun on March the 7th or thereabouts. That's always a big day. And then returning to the thing, you know, it is so well equipped, I know that's the right word, for science, provides for everybody. Just about every type of bird that you'll find in Svalbard is represented in Kongsfjord. The vegetation is and the terrain is varied, the glaciers are varied, so it's got a lot within very, very easy reach. In Ny-Ålesund, we've been quite careful to sort of coordinate science and make it more efficient. So we split it into 4 flagship programs: atmospheric, terrestrial, marine, and glaciology. So if you wanted to come to Ny-Ålesund and you have some idea, simple or complex, if you come to us at the NERC station, my first move would be to work with you, and we'd contact the head of one of the flagships, terrestrial, most likely for you, and just discuss how this would slot in. And they're just, you know, there to help, and they say, great, great, great. And we could maybe put you in touch with somebody else in your field, or who might want to help you, or has data that might be useful, and so on. So it sort of coordinates a bit, and they have their own workshops every now and again. And then every 2 or 3 years, we have Ny-Ålesund seminars where we all get together and share data and what we've been doing. So just to go through, won't go in detail because I'm not a scientist. So just to show you atmospheric research, terrestrial, the Kongsfjord system, marine, and glaciology. And now to our station, the NERC research station, which we built in 1991 at the outset of the international community there. It's very functional. I think that's one thing to say. People who come and use the NERC station, who have been hundreds and hundreds of people pass through the place, I think they find it very functional. It's plain fare, laboratories, workshops, storage space, which is incredibly important, equipment, boat gear, sledging gear, climbing gear for these old glaciers, but it makes for a nice place to be. I think we have only 7 bedrooms, but then if we need more bedrooms, then we just use Kings Bay bedrooms. So we've, I think our record is just over 20 people on station at one time. We're not a lot, and then whatever in between. But it's a comfy place to be. There we are in the summer. Workshop and garage and things at this end, labs at this end, some bedrooms here. Looking down the main corridor, little kitchen here, sitting room. I put up flags here. These represent all the different nations that we have supported in Ny-Ålesund, and I think we've had scientists from 41 countries so far. So please, if you're not on that list, please come and join us. We look forward to seeing you there. Laboratory space here. The whole station comprises of 440 meters square, and of that, about 66 meters square is given to lab space. But then we do have slight overspill, because increasingly in Ny-Ålesund, the international station, we do beg, borrow, share among ourselves throughout the community. And that's great. So, you know, if we haven't got whatever you need, we go across the road and talk to one of our neighbors, and they all jump to it and help. We all help each other. And again, that's adds to that efficiency and friendly atmosphere. Again, just some laboratory pictures. That's the main laboratory. We shift things around just to suit everybody's purposes. We have spark-free fridges, freezers, deep freezers, domestic freezers, drying ovens, fume cabinets, and so on. Some of the people using our labs. The main hallway. A lot of storage space, which is important. And again, people leave things in storage, and if necessary, we contact them, and people borrow bits that are in storage up there. So that's always handy. Safety equipment, glacier equipment here, cold weather clothing, and etc. We take great care of safety. VHF radios, satellite telephones. We have a system for people making a note of where they're going, so we can keep an eye and make sure that they're safe and can return base radio and so on. Communication is very, very good. And we have 7 bedrooms, single bedrooms, and again, very comfy. Marine support. We have our own 5.6 meter Polar Circle boat with 100 horsepower and an auxiliary motor, great for operating within the Kongsfjord area. We also make use of the Kings Bay launch, a 31-foot marine launch in the bottom right here, MV Tyston, who's well equipped for, you know, grabs, dredges, trawls, and so on. And then over in the bottom left hand here is the Kings Bay Marine Laboratory, which is very, very well equipped, and that can be hired on a day-to-day purpose basis rather. Has -80 freezers, wet labs, and so on. But you know, that can be used terrestrial, marine, or whatever. We have boat suits for the people that we carry in our boats, and just to show how efficient they are, we test them out every now and again. And there's somebody reading a newspaper and a magazine while floating quite happily in their boat suit. So good advert for Helly Hansen there. Snow scooters or skidoos, we tend to hire from Kings Bay. We used to have our own, but we find actually keeping up with modern snow scooters and hiring year by year is the best way to go. So, you know, I'll organize that for you if ever you need skidoos. It's a great training ground, and we do everything just to, you know, it's great for the science, but people can sort of improve their polar skills, if you like, whether it be a new PhD student or whatever who hasn't been to polar regions before. We can really help to sort of help them learn the trade, so to speak, and whether it be working on glaciers or on the sea, or in the days of sea ice when we used to get it more often, all these things that are required for an efficient polar scientist, we can help you to learn those things. And then almost lastly, the wonderful wildlife that we share the place with, and it's so rich in wildlife. We get lovely picture up here in the top left taken by Elisa Besmo of a humpback whale just showing its tail, the beluga, a Tyston or a black guillemot, and then of course polar bear, foxes, walrus, barnacle geese, snow sparrows. We're inundated. It's very, very special and a place rich in wildlife. And then also talking of animals, here are just a few of the many, many scientists that come through our door and make use of the place. And I think I can safely say that there are next to none that haven't had a happy and good time there and go away hoping they can visit Ny-Ålesund again. It really is a very, very special place. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nick. It was great to listen to you and learn about all those wonderful facilities and opportunities you have there at the UK Arctic Research Station, and of course learn from your extensive experience in working there. There's already a question for you in the chat, and it goes like, what are the research opportunities on permafrost?
Oh, yeah, good. Again, you know, I have to keep repeating this. I'm not a scientist, but there's been rather like in line with our flagship programs, we have a sort of permafrost group, fairly loose fittings, but it does work. And they have, for instance, they have one borehole. I can't remember, I'm afraid, how deep that borehole is, but it's shared for permafrost measurements. It's primarily run by the Alfred Wegener Institute, and it's out at an area called Leihogen. So you're talking about I'm guessing here a little bit, about 35-minute walk from station and probably about 5 minutes on a snow scooter if you go at that time. So we've got a group who have been there this year. I should have been there with them, who are going to be doing some drilling there, but they were also going to drill elsewhere in the area. And sadly that was postponed, but we'll do it hopefully next spring. But yes, it's an extremely good site for permafrost study and well equipped for studying permafrost.
Yes, thank you. Very, very good and thorough response. And I'm sure a person can find more information also on the website.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And do contact me.
Yes.
You know, if I'd be more than happy to answer questions and help.
That's very helpful. Are there any other questions or comments to Nick?
Yeah, I'm a PhD student, NERC funded actually, and the site looks amazing, thank you. I was wondering if it's possible to do fieldwork for one person, or do you have to work in groups because of polar bears?
That's a really good question, and something I should have mentioned in my talk. Yeah, we used to, in the olden days, we did allow, but increasingly for that very thing you mentioned, because of polar bear and just general field safety, we do insist on being 2 a minimum.
Okay, thanks. And do you organise that if you have kind of individual?
Well, what we do is, I mean, if you contact me, and we could of course just talk through this, what's a good plan, but we do like it if you bring a colleague along with you. If that's going to be too expensive and difficult, then we start searching. For instance, we might see if there's a UNIS student down in Longyearbyen who would like to just come up and help, and that would benefit them. And of course make it a lot cheaper for you, because it would be just the one little flight up from Longyearbyen. So, and then of course we work as teams up there. So even, you know, one of the other groups, we sometimes mix and match between disciplines and projects, so we can help each other. But if you can, it's good to bring somebody you know familiar with and know.
Yes.
Sure. Thanks for that.
Thank you. And then there is one question, additional question. Is there any species checklist available about photosynthetic organisms in the area? Mosses, lichens, plants. Do you know if any species lists like that exist?
No, not that I know of, but the best way of dealing with that is actually to go to the heads of one of the flagships. The other things, and I should have mentioned, this was remiss of me, I didn't mention, is that as of about a year ago, much of the science is coordinated by the Norwegian Polar Institute. And I should have mentioned that. It's rather a new thing, this. And they have, as do Kings Bay, they've both got science advisors. So that's a good route just to get that sort of information, is to go through Norwegian Polar Institute and or Kings Bay and get that sort of information. So I'm sorry I'm not very helpful, but that's probably the route to take.
At least you know which route to take.
Yeah.
That's very nice. Thank you once more.